All right, we're going to continue moving in our calculations of circles, finding area and circumference. But this time we'll be switching around some of our unknowns, which will require us to use some algebra. Here are our formulas, all right? You need to memorize them. To find circumference, you have to multiply the pi times diameter. To find area of a circle, it's pi times radius squared. We've already discussed that. So here's a really cool circle. And for this circle, let's say our circumference is 60 degrees. And they are asking us to find the radius. They're asking us to find the radius. What is the radius? How do we do that? So first of all, let's look at it. We know the circumference, okay, is the outside part of the circle. All right. We know the radius is the distance from the center of the circle to the circumference. That's the radius. All right. And we got to find what that is. In this case, all we have is we know that the length of the circumference, if we took that yellow line, all right, if we took that yellow line and we cut it and spread it out like you guys did with the exercise, it would be 60 centimeters long. Okay, what is the radius? Well, you guys, this is where we bring in our algebra. So first of all, the formula is circumference equals pi times diameter. I always love to draw my little algebra house, which I've mentioned that to some of you. Here's my algebra house. Here's the roof. Here's the sides of the house. And here's the house, and it's divided in two. I always love to do my algebra this way, and I encourage you to do it this way so you don't mix up your operations. So we have the circumference. We know the circumference is 60. And we know that 60 equals pi times d. Okay? So what we got to do is we got to get d by itself. All right? D is diameter. So the way we get d by itself is we do the inverse operation. All right? Which you hopefully remember from middle school. When you want to get a letter, when you want to get an unknown by itself, you do the opposite operations of what's going on at the moment. So here we are multiplying pi times d. So we divide pi times d by pi, and we do it on the other side. That way, this now gets rid of pi, and it leaves us with 60 divided by pi, which equals d. And we know we can find that calculation because we know what pi is. And so let me bring up my calculator. Here's our calculator. Okay. We know that 60 divided by 3.14, okay, equals 19.10. So 19.10 equals D. However, our question is radius. We want to find the radius. We don't want to find the diameter. All right. Well, if you recall, you should recall, the diameter is twice the length of the radius. The diameter goes from one part of the line of the circle to the other. It goes all the way across. The radius is simply half of that. So we take that number, we divide it by half, and we are going to get our answer. So 19.1 divided by 2 should give us 9.55. So our radius of the circle equals 9.55. All right, here is another problem. We have this really cool circular shape right here. And in this particular problem, we are given the area. The area of this shape is 18 meters square. We have to find the radius. We have to find the radius. What is the radius? Okay, well, the radius again is the distance from the center of this really cool shape to the outside. That is the radius. Now we know the area of this whole thing. Okay, can shade it in. The area of this whole thing is 18. What is the radius? All right, so I'm going to erase that because I don't like it. And well, this is where we just bring in our formula. That's what we start with. What is the formula for area? It's right here. Area equals pi r squared. So let's build our little algebraic house. I'm going to make this shape a little smaller here. And let's build our algebraic house. All right. It's not getting smaller. Okay, so here's our algebraic house. Here's our equation line right down the middle. Okay, we know this, the formula for area is area equals pi r squared. In this case, we know area is 18 meters square. We have pi. We don't know what r is. We got to find r. How do we get r by itself? We get rid of pi by doing the inverse operation. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we pi times r squared. We go pi times r, and we divide by pi, and that is the same as having just r squared. Because if you multiply a number and you divide by the same number, it's really like doing nothing. And then we have, on the other side, we have 18 meters square divided by pi equals r squared. Now this doesn't help us yet because we have r squared. All right, let's look at, first of all, what is 18 meters divided by pi? Well, let's take our calculator. Okay, 18 divided by 3.14 equals 5.73. Round it off, 5.73 equals r squared. How do we get r by itself so we're not squaring it? We do the opposite of squaring. If you may recall, the opposite of squaring another is the square root. So we square root everything. Now we will have our answer. We will have, and as you notice, I'm keeping everything on the left side of the equation on the left side, everything on the right side on the right side. Now we're left with pi, with r, r equals the square root of 5.73. I think I can do it with this calculator here, square root. It's 2.39. So the radius of this shape that has an area of 18 meters square, the radius will be 2.39. And you can do an idiot check with this by actually plugging that number into the formula. So let's do it right now. We have 18 should equal pi times 2.39 square. Let's see if it does. 18, well, let me get rid of that. 2.39 square times 3.14 should equal 18, and it does, 17.9. So we just did our idiot check and it worked out. That's the end of this tutorial, but I do want to make careful note as you see how I did my algebra is really how I want you to do it. To make sure everything stays on the left side and everything stays on the right side that should be on the right side unless you switch it over and start doing the inverse operation.